try to move forward with removing the booms once we have it fully contained.
While one passerby told CBC News that they've heard of the pollutant being there for about a week, Winterton says no complaint was made to 311. He says the spread is between the Tecumseh Road Bridge and the marina. Although Winterton says the city doesn't know the extent of the environmental damage, an environmental activist says it looks like a petroleum-based product.
Petroleum products are toxic to all forms of aquatic life, so everything from microorganisms to fish, to waterfowl, to mammals that frequent the river. As well, depending on the spill, the size, and the toxicity of the product, it can affect the food chain overall by eliminating certain species within the food chain that reorganizes the food chain.
A resident who lives along the river says he's never seen this in his 30 years of living there.
It's no good for the fish. Yeah, it's concerning if the birds too, like the ducks, if they get into the oil.
Winterton said it would be a few days before the city completes their investigation and decides on any potential next steps. TJ Thier, CBC News, Windsor.
Police have charged a pool contractor with fraud again. Earlier this summer, the person running KTPC Pools was charged with 3 counts of fraud. Police say that multiple people hired the company to build pools last year. Customers put down deposits that totaled more than $100,000, but police say the work was never started. The company declared bankruptcy. Now, earlier today, police announced that they laid another fraud charge against the company owner, saying he set up a new company called Western Ontario Fiberglass Pools and did the same thing. Officers are asking you to give them a call if you've had work done by either company. The Governor General has announced new appointments to one of Canada's highest honours. That list includes several people with ties to southwestern Ontario. Shannon and Brian Prince were named members of the Order of Canada for their continued preservation and celebration of Black Canadian history here in the region, which includes documenting North Buxton's ties to the Underground Railroad and the families who call the settlement home. New York Times reporter Suzanne Craig has also been named to the Order of Canada. The Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist started her career locally at the Windsor Star. Craig was a lead reporter on an 18-month investigation that debunked former U.S. President Donald Trump's claims of self-made wealth.
This sends just, a message saying that this sort of reporting, investigative reporting, is important. And, I think we can sort of as reporters, there's fact-finding and that still exists. And we just started digging, and we, as we went, we just kept finding out more stuff. It started out in 2016 with 3 pages of a tax return that were mailed to me. And then we started to look just into the origins of his wealth. Another really simple journalism quest, just to understand where his money came from. And in doing that, we spent 18 months looking at that. And we found out not only had he inherited more money from his father, but he had enhanced that fortune through tax fraud. And that was the story that won the Pulitzer. But then we just kept going because we were still interested in the tax returns. They had never come out. There was a lot of pressure for him still to release them. The issue was going up before the Supreme Court, and we were fortunate enough that we actually got a hold of his tax returns. So I just think it's kind of this wonderful journalism expedition. We kept, continuing on, and we kept getting stuff. And it ended, I think in 2020 when we got his tax returns. We're still doing work, but that was really, I think, to me, the goal that we wanted was to get that and to learn more about his business, and we learned that he has lost just huge amounts of money in almost everything that he has touched.
Order of Canada recipients today include broadcaster George Stroumboulopoulos. Strombo is being recognized for his contributions to Canadian media and journalism. Another former CBC broadcaster is joining the exclusive club. Bronwyn Draney, who was also editor-in-chief of the Literary Review of Canada, and the creator of these beautiful stringed instruments, they're joining the order as well. Linda Manzer is being recognized for her trailblazing contributions and achievements. The honors will be handed out in the new year. Along the border of Ukraine and Poland sits a town called Lubin. It's a twin city of Windsor and one that's playing a key role during Ukraine's war with Russia. The CBC's Dale Molnar with a look at how the Polish city is helping settle thousands of refugees.
We are fine.
Krzysztof Stanowski is the International Affairs Director in Lublin. He says the situation in Lublin has stabilized greatly since the beginning of the war. Today, he says, the 35,000 to 40,000 Ukrainians living in Lublin now have homes and jobs.
When you are a refugee, when you came from Ukraine, you can get this social security number, and it makes you equal to the Polish citizen in all the services except voting rights.
Stanowski says 1.4 million refugees have either gone through or moved to Lublin since the beginning of the war. He says there are only up to 400 people at any time living in group settings, such as dorms now. He says about 50 to 70 people from the war-torn parts of Ukraine arrive weekly.
For many of them, the first building they visit is the hospital. Wounded people, civilians, also soldiers.
Jerry Britsky is a member of the International Relations Committee and also the president of the Polish-Canadian Business and Professional Association in Windsor. He says the emphasis is now to get Ukrainians to integrate into Polish life.
That is not only with relation to children and their school and all this, but also, a legal advice, and they have almost 500 people who are translating.
Councillor Angelo Marignani is the chair of the International Relations Committee. He says they are keeping in touch with Lublin.
So that we have that sort of fostering that international community.
Stanowski estimates that eventually about 40,000 Ukrainians will settle in Lublin permanently. That will mean 1 in 5 people living in that city will be Ukrainian.
They lost their houses. So anyway, they are forced to start the new life. Now it's mainly about integration, about culture initiatives, about legal advices, about psychological assistance.
When the war first started, about 65,000 people flooded into the city in need of emergency shelter and supplies. In 2022, Windsor's International Relations Committee sent $5,000 to Lublin to help with emergency supplies.
Mainly to buy basic hygienic stuff and also to organize activities for children. That means to buy office-type crayons, painting.
He says now if Windsor or anyone wants to send funds, the best thing to do is to send them to Ukraine directly. Back in July, the city of Windsor donated $5,000 to the Ukrainian consulate in Toronto to buy electrical generators for the country. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
The White House has announced another $250 million in military aid for Ukraine in its war against Russia. President Biden's administration announced the military assistance yesterday. The weapons package includes an array of air defense supports, missiles, and ammunition. It comes amid the U.S. president's calls for more support from Congress for the war-torn country. U.S. officials say it could be the final aid package for Ukraine unless new funding legislation is approved. The Israeli military continued its assault on parts of Gaza today. Warplanes and artillery targeted areas controlled by Hamas. One strike buried more than 20 people in a house in northern Gaza, according to a family member. Meanwhile, Israeli officials have issued a stern warning. They say that if Hezbollah continues to attack Israeli targets from Lebanon, Israel will remove the Iranian-backed militia group from the border. Also today, a woman who grew up in Canada and moved to Israel was declared dead. Judy Weinstein was fatally wounded when Hamas attacked her community on October 7th. Her kibbutz says her body and that of her husband remain with Hamas in Gaza. Weinstein, a mother and grandmother, was 70 years old. You have just mere days now to come up with a New Year's resolution. Maybe it's the same every year or something new. Maybe you don't have one at all. Well, we have some resolutions that were made in 1982 for the year of 83. This report reluctantly done by former CBC Windsor reporter Percy Hatfield.
I almost made it. I almost went through another year without having to do a New Year's Eve resolution story, but it didn't happen. I came into work today and the assignment editor said, guess what, it's New Year's Eve. Go talk to people about their resolutions.
Well, we all have New Year's resolutions. I just work a little harder.
Oh, I'm so good I don't have to make a New Year's resolution.
New Year's resolution? What should I say? Quit drinking, quit smoking, and quit cheating? No, just quit eating. That's my New Year's resolution. That's all I have to do, okay?
You gonna make any New Year's resolutions?
Well, I will just, not really. I try to do my best and try to continue like this.
Not to eat too much of my mama's pasta fazoux.
Yes, I have one resolution to slow down the drinking for 2 weeks, not a month.
I don't believe in imposing guilt on myself, and I never keep resolutions, so that just makes me guilty. Why make them?
Keep the taxes down. That's what we're after in 83, Jose.
And on that optimistic note, goodbye, and we'll see you next year.
As well as resolutions, the new year also comes with a bit of reflecting. We sent the CBC's TJ Deer out to see what some of your biggest moments were from the past year.
What was the biggest thing that happened to you this year?
So the biggest thing that happened to me was getting married to my wonderful wife, and then also graduating school.
Congratulations.
Yes,
what did you graduate from?
I'm now a nurse practitioner.
For me personally, the biggest thing is my son and daughter-in-law who live in Victoria. They had a baby girl yesterday, so it's my second granddaughter, my fourth grandchild, and we've been anticipating this one for a while, so we're pretty pleased.
Well, the biggest thing that happened to me this year, I guess it started in November of 2022, but it went on to this year. It was my girlfriend. She's the best girl I've ever met in my life. She changed my life, and honestly, I don't even think I'd be here in this city today if it weren't for her. Honestly, life just couldn't have been any better. I'm so happy.
What would you say is the biggest thing that happened to the city of Windsor this year?
Well, I think it's in development is this new battery plant. Whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure, but it really seems to be impacting the economy. It's going to create a lot of jobs. Certainly ongoing is the construction of the Gordie Howe Bridge, and I think that's huge. I love watching that thing being developed, and I know it's created a lot of jobs in the city and should continue to impact our economy really, really well in a positive way.
A lot of cross-border workers, I think, also in the traffic. I used to work across the border, so to me that's a big deal for commuters and for traveling. And hopefully it lightens up the traffic, especially on the bridge with the trucks. So that would be, I think, really cool to see that get better.
Rain, rain, go away. Am I right? I don't know about you, but I'm itching for some sun. We'll find out if we've got a little of that stuff in the forecast that's coming up. It's a terrible feeling, forgetting something important in a public place. So when members of the Canadian Tire in Essex saw this important little bunny left in the store, they rushed to social media to find its human owner. The post quickly went viral with more than 600 shares. People were anxious to get this very well-loved stuffed animal back in safe hands. I spoke with the general manager of the store today, who said it wasn't even a half hour after the post went up that the child walked back in to retrieve his special friend. He said Bunny will be missed by staff, but they're excited they were able to keep Bunny safe during a successful missing search. On this rainy Thursday, Victor Paulo is here with our weather forecast.
Meg, it was another wet one here in Windsor. Similar to yesterday, it's been another day filled with periods of rainfall. Now, what we're expecting when it comes to later on this week, it is going to be scattered showers. Will still be a theme for your Friday, but once Friday's all said and done, we are in store for one more wet day when it comes to your New Year's Eve. But New Year's Day is going to be a sunny New Year's Day, which is always great news for this part of the city. Now, 0.1 is your average high and minus 6.6 is your average low. And taking a look at exactly what we're going to be expecting over the skies, well, it's going to be a lot of cloudy skies mixed in with a lot of rainfall for the Windsor area. Now, one thing we can also note when it comes to Windsor, the closer we do get to the weekend, we can know that it's going to be a sunny Saturday, as well as we're expecting a bit of rainfall for Sunday. Now, we're expecting it to be a high tonight, well, a low tonight of 2 degrees, feeling like -1. If you do see behind me, it's going to be quite the foggy day in Windsor. Correction, foggy night. But when we're looking at our 3- and 7-day forecast, here's a couple of things to note. Look at that Friday, look at that Saturday. It's going to be a mix of sun and cloud, two things we've missed for a while with all of those scattered showers. When it comes to Sunday, there's a 60% chance that it will be of the flurry variety. We're expecting some flurries to come down on your last day of 2023, and it's going to be a low of -1 with a high of 3 degrees, which is still going to be above seasonal. We do remember those numbers we saw on our earlier slide. Now, taking a look at it, what else we're expecting for your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? Well, let me tell you, Monday is going to be a beautiful start to your 2024. Look at that high of 1, low of -3, a nice high pressure system over the Windsor region, which means you're going to be seeing nothing but sunshine. Followed up by a Tuesday, which is a mix of sun and clouds, similar weather on Wednesday and Thursday. Well, you know what? In a 7-day stretch, if this is the only day we're getting a bit of snow and a bit of rain, I'll take that, because a mix of sun and cloud is always a good way to start off a year. But until then, hope you have yourselves a lovely night and stay dry, Windsor, because we got some warm days ahead. And over to you, Meg.
Love to see that sun in the forecast. Thanks so much for that, Victor. An Ontario company is putting a new spin on an old device. We have that story coming up after the break. Sales of vinyl albums continue to soar. It's a form of entertainment that hasn't changed too much over the past century, but here in Ontario, there's a company putting a different spin on records, a green one. They've developed a more environmentally friendly option that reduces waste by about 80%. Tom Perry has the story.
The rebirth of vinyl in full swing. Workers at this plant near Toronto turning out LPs in every color of the rainbow for artists around the world. Demand for records and their rich, warm sound has been growing for years, along with questions about how they're made.
PVC is the compound we're using, polyvinyl chloride, so we should care about that.
Polyvinyl chloride is a petroleum product, meaning every record has a carbon footprint. At this plant, the goal is to shrink that by making sure as little vinyl as possible goes to waste.
So the EcoMix program is designed to recycle everything we make.
Records that don't make the cut are sorted by color, ground up, and used again in what the company calls EcoMix.
This was a thousand albums, 1,000 dreams, right?
It's not unusual for record companies to recycle reject LPs. The difference here is the color. The company offers 6 distinct shades.
So the industry has had a recycled vinyl product for some time, and what that is it's a grab bag of random reground colors thrown together into a surprise color, right? And sometimes it looks okay, sometimes it has a bit of a baby vomit look, you know?
There's a lot of bands that just use this as their rehearsal space.
Josh Wickens runs a record label out of a dark restaurant basement, but has embraced the bright new colors.
It's got a lot of different hues and colors and, different highlights.
His latest release on EcoMix from Toronto hardcore band Street Justice.
It's pretty much my go-to when I do vinyl. For any band, really, I'll offer it and hope that they accept.
Duh.
It's not just indie bands. Pop star Billie Eilish has announced a project on EcoMix, though some say what's needed is to replace vinyl altogether with something cleaner and greener. For now, the focus here is on cutting waste, while pressing ahead with the vinyl revival. Tom Perry, CBC News, Burlington, Ontario.
From teaching your kids to read or crafting bedtime stories, parents can now turn to artificial intelligence to help. But depending on who you ask, the combination of young minds and AI can seem either hopeful or hazardous. CBC's Georgie Smythe has more.
What do you want to make a story about? Space?
It's story time in this BC house, but this is not a conventional tale. It's one Dipti Bide and her son Rohan are writing themselves with the help from artificial technology she created.
So we have all these small waiting videos because AI is doing it on the go. So it's a new problem to solve.
Alex was thrilled to meet an expert.
The program is called Little Lit, powered by AI. It uses cues from children to invent unique educational lessons on math, writing or reading, something its creator says was missing from the market.
It's a story he created, so he's very motivated. So we realized AI has the power to actually now really meet that demand, which a human cannot, even if teachers are awesome and parents are awesome, they just can't. So that's kind of what led us to trying to create an app which can solve that problem using AI.
The interactive app is one of many popping up online aimed at capturing the attention of kids and parents.
Now you read the word.
Judges. Some even feature unique child speech recognition technology. Many promise to improve literacy and self-directed learning.
Elo coaches them through tricky words.
The facades are friendly and animated, but behind the visuals are complex computer systems working to solve tasks that were once the domain of humans only. It's new territory that even developers say needs guardrails for young users.
It's not that kids can do anything. It's that, what is the AI being used for? And in our case, it's being used to say whether or not a child's pronunciation of a word is in line with what they should be saying.
But learning isn't just a cognitive process, it's a social, cultural and emotional one too, something researchers say will be hard for AI to rival.
A parent can link the story to what they saw in the zoo last Sunday. Right, whereas an AI tool would only be limited to information that has been fed through a prompt.
All right, let's do it.
For parents that choose to embrace it, the technology is another way to prepare for fundamental changes in the way we work, live and learn.
AI exists. Now, what skills do you need to teach your child to keep up with that? And hey, by the way, AI can help with that as well. Go ahead.
After all, children are the future, and so is AI. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And don't forget to watch The National tonight on 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app and CBC TV. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.